Let's talk about the AFC South, a sleeper, a breakout, and a bust right now on Fantasy Football Today in 5. I'm Adam Azer. I'm with Dan Schneier here. All right, let's get a sleeper in the AFC South.
Start with a sleeper in the AFC South. It's Josh Downs for me, the second-year wide receiver out of North Carolina. Does an excellent job getting open within the slot with those two-way routes and earned almost as much targets per game with Anthony Richardson last year as Michael Pittman, who's being drafted many, many rounds higher than him. Obviously not the same physical presence as Pittman, but gets open more easy in my mind, at least from watching them both on tape. Think he'll be a good outlet for Anthony Richardson and have more receptions and more targets, which is what we're looking for in PPR leagues.
Okay, my sleeper for the AFC South is Trevor Lawrence. I think the loss of Calvin Ridley just wasn't even that good last year. So I don't think it's going to affect him. I feel like we saw his floor last year in Trevor Lawrence, and he played through so many injuries. He had a knee injury at one point, and then an ankle injury. He got so beat up. So I hope offensive line's a little bit better. The receiving core could be better just if Christian Kirk stays healthy. I don't know if it's going to be better, but I don't think it's going to be much worse. So this is a guy who still has the physical tools, the rushing ability to be a top 12 quarterback. Not huge upside, I don't think, for Lawrence, but it wouldn't surprise me if he was something like QB 10 per game. Who's a breakout for you?
Breakout for me, I'm going to go with Brian Thomas Jr. Obviously had a breakout season last year with LSU and Jaden Daniels, 17 touchdown passes, proved himself as both a elite receiver on the vertical plane, but also in the red zone for LSU. And he's exactly what I think this offense needs for Jacksonville. I say that because of Trevor Lawrence's skill set as a thrower. He is a tall ball thrower that throws a tall ball. He throws it really high, and he puts a lot of velocity on it, and that's good for a big receiver like Brian Thomas Jr. He's going to obviously have to get up to speed with this offense. It's very different than the LSU offense, but if he can start to catch fire with Lawrence early in camp, preseason, start to build that rapport, I think he could take over as the true number one receiver here and a big play threat for them.
Well, that would certainly help my Trevor Lawrence sleeper pick, wouldn't it? My breakout's going to be Tajay Spears, who's going about 100th overall in drafts. And he's going after Tony Pollard, not that long after. But Spears might be better than Pollard. I mean, I think they're pretty similar players, actually. They're both really explosive when they're at their best. Obviously, Spears is younger than Tony Pollard. I don't really have any issues with Pollard. My thing is, there's no indication that Pollard is actually the starter. They keep saying it's 1A and 1B, that they are interchangeable, so they both could catch some passes. Get the guy who's going later. And if there's any injury to Pollard, there's a huge breakout opportunity for Tajay Spears. So that is my breakout. Who's your bust?
My bust for this division, I'm going to go with – this is a tough one for me, Adam, because I think there's a few busts. And as we talked through them, there were a couple guys that came to mind. I'm actually going to change it up here. I'm going to go with a player who we discussed already, and it's Calvin Ridley. We discussed him earlier on an FFT show. But the more we talk about him, the more I feel like there's nothing that leads me to believe he's not going to be a bust from a talent standpoint, from a target volume standpoint, from a quarterback and passing game health standpoint. All those things I feel like are working against him. And then throw in the age factor too. We're really drawing for straws here to find, other than his name, brand, and name value, why I'd be interested in drafting Calvin Ridley. So I'm going to go with Ridley as my bust.
All right, my bust is going to be Michael Pittman. I think it really depends. I could see him going in such a wide range. I could see him being a late second-round pick. I've actually seen that. Or I could see him lasting until maybe later in the third round. It's maybe into the fourth, but I doubt it. I see him as wide receiver 17 here, going with the second pick of round 3 on Draft Sharks PPR ADP. That's just too early for me. Wide receiver 17 is not necessarily that early, but there are definitely going to be a lot of running backs and probably maybe even some quarterbacks that I would take over Michael Pittman. I don't see a lot of touchdowns for him. I think the targets are going to be inconsistent. If this is really Anthony Richardson's offense, I'm not sure that he's going to be able to give us a top 17 wide receiver. I don't think he will be able to do that. And Dan's not the only one who likes Josh Downs. That is a thought amongst people that Downs could be a better fit. I don't know about that, but I do think it will eat in enough to Michael Pittman. So I'd like to take Michael Pittman late in round 3 at the earliest. I think he's being overdrafted right now. Dan Schneider, thank you very much. I'm Adam Azer, and we'll talk to you tomorrow on Fantasy Football Today in 5.